Hello and welcome to Calm the Pharm podcast, where pharmacy business meets legal wisdom, minus the headache. In each episode, we share practical legal tips and real-life examples to help you run your pharmacy with confidence. I'm your host, Sarah Stoddart. Thanks very much for joining us. Today we're continuing on with the lessons learned through my trip in Japan, and today I want to talk about service delivery. And what do I actually mean by that? Well, your customer comes in to your business and purchases something. Now that something is what they are expected to buy or what they are expecting to buy. However, how is that service, that transaction actually delivered to them? Let me talk about this a little bit more. So throughout Japan, I had this occur to me quite a few times. One time in particular really stands out. But in Japan, when you buy an item, it's not just about going to the cashier and having that transaction unfold and then you take the item away. There seems to be a lot more to it than that. Now in Japan, like in Australia, bags aren't a given. They do charge for bags, although some shops, particularly those that are themed, so, for example, Nintendo shop, Pokemon shop, and the Nintendo Museum, you do get a bag there, and look, those bags are quite fun themselves to keep as a memento. However, regardless of whether or not you're buying a bag, the whole transaction is quite beautiful, really. So, as you may be familiar with, when dealing with the Japanese, they do treat each item with care and respect. So it's not just a matter of throwing a product or an item into a bag, whether it's their bag or a bag you give them, but it's about carefully and delicately placing that item into the bag. The bags are almost always sealed with a nice sticker from that location and then really nicely handed to you. Now, whilst that might seem minor or perhaps a time waster, there is something really beautiful about that transaction and that engagement that takes place, and the respect for the item being purchased and the whole transaction itself. So, that's the first part of this discussion, is about when you are doing your service delivery in your business, how are you actually producing or finalizing that item or transaction for the client? Is it a case that you're throwing it into a paper bag, or perhaps they don't want a bag, so you're sliding it across the counter to them? Now, I think that's probably the way most people are doing it in pharmacy, is just popping it in a bag, handing it over, or sliding it. But think about how you can actually make that more of a ceremony, I suppose, to really up your service delivery. For us in my business, sometimes it's a matter of sending documents out, or we might send a final letter at the end of a matter. So how can we do that differently with a little bit more, I guess, respect for the transaction and, like I say, that ceremony? The occasion that really stood out to me when I was thinking about service delivery and how they do it over there was when I visited a shop called Strawberry Mania. Now, the Japanese love their strawberries. They don't come cheap over there, but they are delicious and they produce them in many different ways. Strawberry Mania was a shop that had various things like strawberry ice cream, sugared strawberries, strawberries on sticks, etc. And you see that quite a lot. But what I was after on this particular occasion, which was after dinner, was a piece of the absolutely beautiful strawberry sponge cake, which is the freshest cake you can imagine, with layers of cream and strawberries in between. Now, when I looked in the cabinet, and it was sort of like a little stand on the side of a street, this Strawberry Mania, I saw the piece of cake there. It had some plastic either side of it, obviously, to protect the cake and the cream from spreading. And I thought, yes, I'll purchase a piece of cake, thank you. So I ordered the cake, expecting it to come out in a paper bag or maybe in a little cardboard box, half box, to protect the cake from falling. It took a little bit of time to get the cake, and I didn't think much of it because I was looking around at other things and patiently waiting. And when the lady handed me the Strawberry Mania bag, and it did have a box inside it, I didn't think anything of it because I was taking the cake home. So when we got back home to our hotel, and after the kids had gone to bed, I was looking forward to having my strawberry cake. And I went into the bag, which was sealed with that sticker, so remove the sticker, went into the bag. Sure enough, Strawberry Mania box there, not a half box, but a sealed box. Now, when I opened the box up, not only was the cake there in the plastic film that it had around it, but it had also been placed into a patty, I suppose, similar to a cupcake patty tin sort of thing, a paper patty dish into the box. Next to it was another patty dish with a piece of cardboard branded Strawberry Mania put inside that patty dish to, give it some bulk and to prevent my piece of cake from sliding across in the box. So it was filling out the remainder of the box space. And within that circular bit of cardboard was a tiny little ice pack. Now, that was brilliant because although I had stored the cake in the fridge, the care and attention and detail that had gone into making sure my product, which I had explained was takeaway, was going to be in the perfect and prime condition for eating, not only for my enjoyment, but to uphold the reputation of Strawberry Mania, just blew my mind. The little ice pack was really the last thing I expected, but what a beautiful touch to make sure I enjoyed the product at its optimal enjoyment level. So thinking about this, and I thought, isn't that fantastic service delivery? Because for all this lady knew, I could have been heading down to a park or going for a further walk or going somewhere for a drink afterwards. I wasn't. However, it did still really strike me the care, effort, respect and attention that had gone into delivering the service rather than just putting a piece of cake into a half cardboard box and bad luck for me if it fell over on my journey home. So, the purpose of today's podcast is not to make you salivate thinking about beautiful sponge cakes, but to make you think about your service delivery and what you can do to really take your service delivery to the next level. It doesn't have to be expensive, but thinking about how you can add more care, attention, and respect into your transactions and your engagement with your customers to really make the experience that the customer is having stand out. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what it is that you might do or other excellent service delivery you might have experienced in Australia or elsewhere. Until next time, have a great week and thanks for listening.